I think same as you, I think I got to a point where, and definitely I feel like it comes with age too, that I'm just actually authentically probably the most myself than I ever have been, and just being like, here I am, this is what it is. And I've actually feel like I've gotten more love from it, more understanding from it actually, because I feel like now I'm not having to mask to try to be like anyone else.
I think that's the thing, like a lot of it is giving yourself grace, like making the mistakes, being accountable for yourself, and then learning from that so you don't have to do it again.
The average person who's not in the public eye, and yeah, obviously I signed up to do that show, but I didn't think the scrutiny would be as intense as it was.
Hey ladies.
Hi.
Oh, so excited about this. Megan, Keisha, Jade, thank you so much for being here today. This is a subject that I know we can have a really juicy chat about. So much so that I wrote a book about this subject matter, because I think I realised at a certain point in my life that likability had such a weight to it, and it was actually becoming very detrimental. And I think that we are a perfect group of women to have this chat. We've all got our different relationship with that subject matter, and the other side of it, which is at times publicly having criticism, critique, or assumptions made about you. We've all been in that boat. So I'm really keen to get all of your thoughts on it. So first of all, a massive bloody thank you.
Thank you.
I guess where we should start is maybe just looking at the subject of likability as a broad subject. So for me, I think being likable means compliance at this point in my life. I think I used to believe it was making everyone else happy, everyone's okay, then the world is good. But actually, I now see it as compliance. I was just shapeshifting to placate everybody else to my detriment. What does that subject mean to you, or that word mean to you, Jade?
I think it's just a bit like making sure that everyone has this image of you, and then making sure that you live up to that image, and then you kind of have to follow like a line of expectation. So I guess the same kind of thing, like compliancy. Like if I were to branch out and do something a little bit different, people would kind of be like, oh, I'm not sure about that. And it's kind of like, well, you grow and evolve, right? You develop new interests, and they're not necessarily going to align with everyone who follows you.
No, exactly. And that's why then we end up showing up as a different version of ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like a fake. I used to perform. That was my trick. I'll just perform and be like, you know, this all singing, all dancing person, so that everyone's like, oh, she's so fun and she's so full of energy. And sometimes I was like, I'm exhausted from pretending to be this person that I'm not. Because sometimes I can be quite quiet and reserved, but I would have this sort of performative front. How about you, Keisha? What does being likable mean?
Yeah, I feel like it was probably more difficult when I was obviously being a part of a group. I think there's a lot of comparison. So if you are, you know, maybe if your personality maybe is a bit more louder, or if your tone of voice, like for me, I feel like I've got such a I call it like a colourful tone. So it could be high, it could be low, it could be, and I feel like sometimes that made me like extremely paranoid, especially if you're sitting next to, you know, people who maybe speak a bit different to you. So there was like a lot of pressure, I feel like, that I was unaware of. And I think same as you, I think I got to a point where, and definitely I feel like it comes with age too, that I'm just actually authentically probably the most myself than I ever have been, and just being like, here I am, this is what it is. And I've actually feel like I've gotten more love from it, more understanding from it actually, because I feel like now I'm not having to mask to try to be like anyone else, or try to be like, there's no, I'm sure there's always going to be, I'm still in the group now, so I feel like there's always going to be comparisons, but I think it's different as you get older, because you're so comfortable within yourself.
Yeah.
And you sort of understand that like everyone is different.
Yeah.
You know that, but I think you put it into practice as you get.
And I think it is hard won, and a lot of it does come with age. I feel the same.
Yeah.
I am now pretty okay with turning up as myself on any given day. And if people thought that I was a bit quiet or whatever it is, or too loud, or whatever the mood was that day, then not my problem. I'm going to go home and crack on with my day and not lose sleep over it. Whereas I would before. I would be lying awake going, I said this thing and they might think this. And, you know, you go into those awful spirals wondering what the other person thinks. We've got to hopefully get to a place where we care less, essentially.
Yeah.
Megan, what about you? What does being likeable mean?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of what you girls covered, like when you're younger, you just want to conform and fit in with everything else. Like whether you're male, female at school, it's just you want to be like everyone else. You're all like cardboard cutouts of each other.
Yeah.
And I remember like my first memory, I was watching like Top of the Pops and I was like really like enjoying this like heavy rock song. And I was like, girls don't like that, Meg. And like she said that, I think, from a place of wanting to protect me, because back then girls were very girly, listening to Spice Girls, whatever. It wasn't, and she's doing that from what she's been taught generations on. So I don't know whether it's like because you get older, you get more confident, or whether it's society slowly letting us branch out and be more individual. Because definitely growing up in like primary school, senior school, everybody had to conform and be the same, or you would be ostracised.
I think it's probably a bit of both, I reckon. I think we all have, like, it's human nature for us to want to be accepted by our peer group. So certainly at secondary school, me and my mates, who are still my best mates today, would all dress the same, have the same hairstyle, wear the same kicker shoes. You know, we all fit into this little pod where we were this homogenous group because we wanted to belong. And we still all, when we sit there talking, have the identical intonation and, you know, we've sort of morphed into one another. But I think when we start letting that spill into like every social situation we're in, and we are like chameleons changing in any situation, that's when I certainly started to question, why am I doing that? Why am I, you know, changing for these people I don't even know half the time? It's terrifying.
And I do feel like there's still like parts of me that like wants to be like, I don't know anyone who wakes up in the morning and just like, I'm just, you know, I don't mind if I like, you know, if I'm not liked today. You know, I feel like that it is important to me, like that people, I show up well and people like me. But I think the problem, I think it becomes a problem when you start to not be authentic, when you start to kind of go against your moral compass, you know, to please everyone, you know, not really speak what's in your mind, not stand for, you know, for, I don't know, injustices or just things that you know deep down inside that's the right thing to do. I feel like that's when the compromise is when it starts to go left.
I so agree. I don't think the goal in any of this is to be like, I couldn't give a fuck. I don't care. I don't care what anyone thinks. I have never met that person. And I think even the people that say that, they do care deep down. We do.
For sure.
We care.
They have to.
We do care. I think for me, the biggest lesson has been learning to live alongside knowing that someone out there doesn't like you, or even a group of people. Going, oh, God, that hurt. But actually, I'm still okay. Before, what I would do is go, oh, I must be bad. I'm bad. Like, I'm a bad person. Someone doesn't like me. There must be something wrong with me. And now I can live alongside, okay, I'm just not the person that person likes, and that's where it ends. That's the full stop. Let's dig deeper into the very strange relationship that all of us have had with being in the public eye and having outside commentary. I mean, Keisha, we go back. We go back. This has been in your life and my life for decades, and you do sadly grow used to negative outside commentary. We've both, you know, everybody in the public eye has to deal with that to some, you know, in varying degrees. And I have never felt particularly able to cope with it. I mean, certainly better now. But when I was younger, and certainly when social media came to the forefront of our worlds, I just thought, I'm not thick-skinned. I'm a sensitive person. I can't handle it. When you were first thrust onto the music scene, and, you know, back when the Sugababes started, you were everywhere, and there were TV shows to support a band like that. Top of the Pops, kids TV shows. You were blanket coverage when you released a single. That is a bombardment of commentary in those moments. How did you cope with it then?
Well, thankfully there wasn't like social media.
No.
So I didn't have to see things like firsthand, and there was not so much pressure. Well, I will say this, that being a part of the Sugababes, the good thing about being a part of it was that, you know, our brand really embraced individuality and not perfection. We were actually like, they called us like the girl band that you're allowed to like. So, you know, it was okay for us to show up a little bit like rough and ready, put it that, compared to our, you know, our counterparts. But I think that coming on the scene, it definitely was, I mean, just being a teenager definitely wasn't, you know, easy a lot of the time, but it was actually more so coming from the prints, the press, like anything like negative that we would see was more so from that point of view. I think for me, I struggled like for such a long time because I think behind the scenes, I guess I felt like there was like more so like a lot of support, but I was always told that I wasn't necessarily allowed to like speak up about things that were like maybe like untrue. So I didn't really get the chance to represent. And I think, you know, elephant in the room, being the only Black girl as well, I think that there was sort of like that narrative. There was a lot of things that were, you know, obviously not true, a lot of narratives. And there were, you know, I could have an interview or something and I could say something and everyone would say the same thing, but maybe mine was highlighted in a way that didn't land the way I wanted it to. I think the best thing that's happened in my life over the last like 15 years, funny enough, is social media, even though I'm on the fence about it.
You can say
but yeah, now I actually get to be exactly who I am, and you know, people can just like take me for who I am, and then that's it. And if there is anything that I don't like that's written, which to be fair, the press has been like so lovely, you know, over the last, you know, few years, for a while now, I could just jump online and just like square that off straight away.
Yeah.
And also I put parameters, probably like, I would say maybe in 2000, I say over 11 years ago, I decided that I wasn't going to read anything. So even on Instagram, I'll post and, you know, you open the app and you're like sort of you can see, you know, comments. I actually don't go through them because I've got this theory. And I think that if you are given so much love and admiration, you know, that's not too good for you either.
You're so right.
You're amazing. You're this. It's
You're
like,
so right.
I show up and I go, I did the best that I can. And hopefully that's good enough. And I'm also like, I critique myself quite a lot. So that's just my personality. So if I feel like I need to fix something, I just will. But sitting there, having people's opinions about, you know, your character or how you look and stuff, reading that every day, it's just not good for you. And it was the best decision that I ever made.
So
literally.
healthy.
I don't read anything at all. And if I do, it's like by my choice because I've maybe posted something, seen one of my friends, you know, and I might like comment, but I actually don't know.
It's so healthy. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, you have been brilliantly vocal more recently about, if we look at back in the day, and we all know like the print press back in the day was vital.
Brutal.
It was so brutal. And they're pushing narratives, but a lot of it was blatant racism.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
It was racism and depicting you as something different, whether it was difficult or the narrative of being an angry Black woman and things that are deeply disrespectful. And you were meant to just sit there and silently take that.
Yeah, I was always just told that today's news will be tomorrow's shit paper. And so, like I said, behind the scenes, people always told me to ignore what was being said. But then we would get in front of like the world, and I just didn't really always feel like that it was like the same support, if that made sense. And it was really difficult. And I think I was extremely defensive. So I'd walk into most situations just thinking that no one liked me. And I think what people didn't realize was outside of, you know, my workspace, I was a teenager who had to go out and face other teenagers who then wanted to, like, as they say, test my gangster because of all the things that they read. And so there was a lot of times where, you know, I'd have to like lock myself in like toilets at, you know, different places because I could hear that they, you know, people were saying things that maybe they had read. So it was a really, really hard time. And, you know, but I feel like people weren't as educated and weren't aware as, you know, and I think looking back, I look at certain interviews and I definitely came in like, I'm going to act like this doesn't bother me. And I think when you do that, it comes across as quite defensive and a bit aggy. And like I said, the best thing I ever did was go, actually, I'm just going to be myself. And as soon as I did that, I'm not joking, it was almost like, and obviously times have changed. There's a lot of work to do, obviously a long way to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like it was a completely different thing. And, you know, I think that in, you know, now having conversations like this are like extremely helpful because then you feel sort of like acknowledge, you know, your voice and your experience, and that's been really helpful too.
It's amazing. I love it. And also there's something that irks me massively about women in general not having the space to be angry.
Yes.
Like we're allowed to be fuming, livid.
Yeah.
I'm often livid about things.
Yeah.
And we're told, you know, that's not the done thing. Like you need to contain that and show another emotion, not anger. It's not allowed. I mean, much actually like the Sugababes. When you started out, you weren't coming in like the Spice Girls or Atomic Kitten, all smiles. You were yourselves, and you were teenagers who were incredibly talented. And it wasn't like, we're going to be like stage school kids. You weren't that. And that's, I think, the thing that marked you differently to everybody else. But likewise, Jade, when you were on Traitors, you weren't sat there grinning your head off the whole time, and rightly so, because you had other contestants, namely Amanda, who were really targeting you, which I'm imagining in that stressful situation, being filmed 24/7, feels pretty awful. So why would you be sat there smiling? But that's something that people felt they needed to comment on.
And it was also just like, I was being called defensive a lot, and I was like, what am I supposed to do? Not sit here and defend myself. And I can have a temper. And then that was kind of like, well, so many people are going to watch this and I don't want them to see that side of me. Do you know what I mean? And then that like made me super self-conscious, because I was at that table a lot of the time, and a lot of the time I was sad, but a lot of the time I was actually livid. And I couldn't swear, and I had to come up with a way to get my point across without, being bullish about it, which oftentimes I felt, that kind of regard wasn't shown to me in the same way. But yeah, it was hard work.
I thought you dealt with all of it impeccably well. And also, nor did anybody say about any of the men around that table, why aren't they smiling all the time?
Yeah.
They could sit there looking brooding and serious, or just be themselves without a smile on their face. It's not commented on.
Without being picked on. Now, I literally say this to a lot of people that, how do you deal with it? Because you're more quiet, you're more reserved. There's a lot to go through. And I say, well, if I was a guy, I wouldn't be going through this. I wouldn't be put under a magnifying glass.
No, you wouldn't at all. I mean, also, having had your everyday life prior to entering Traitors, and then, Traitors is a huge show. You've got millions of people watching. People are obsessed with it. You know, me and my kids absolutely love it. But you've also got news outlets commenting on it. It becomes a real cultural zeitgeist thing that is in everybody's homes. I find this fascinating with anyone that's been on any TV show of that size, how you process everything. When you come out the other side, you've been in the bubble, you've been in that world, and then you've got to deal with, this is what strangers I've never met are saying about me or think about me.
It was just like the articles where they'd kind of unload all my basically life trauma, right? It's not something that I hide behind. I wear it like a shield. I'm very happy to talk about it. I think they're topics that need to be spoken about. But it's the way they phrase it, like I'm keeping it a secret. And if anyone who knows me, I don't keep it like a secret. But then it's also people, and unexpectedly making TikToks about my ethnicity. It's like, why are we having a conversation about the fact I'm a mixed race, a white Asian? Like this, I have so many other facets that are so much more interesting. Like I do science, I love gaming, I love my smarty books. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Like it's just so much more interesting, and we can have a conversation about which Pokemon I like the best, rather than, the fact I'm half white, half Asian.
Yeah. I think when people start to pull out things from your life that are your everyday experience, like you say, the things that you don't think about so much, or you don't feel like need to be at the forefront, but also when it's your past and your history and things that you have every right to keep absolutely private. That's no one's property but yours. That's when I think the lines get really blurry, because people assume, I know Jade, I've seen her on the telly, I know who she is, I know what she's about. And it's I think some of the time when there's that discord, we feel like, people don't get me. They're not seeing me. That's the sort of discomfort.
Yeah.
If they've made an assumption that is wrong or feels jarring, it's because it's like, no, you don't. You're not seeing the real me. And actually, how can an audience truly see anyone on the TV, in the music industry, whatever area? Because we show a part of ourselves, and we go home, and there's a whole other version of ourselves.
Exactly. And it's like, I went in there to play a game. The only thing I thought about was the fact that I cried a lot, which is fine. I process my emotions there and then, and it's overwhelming. And I was like, God, like, what if people see me as this like really weak, like vulnerable young woman? Because that's not who I am. And I was just so worried about how that was just going to come across. But then, yeah, after some time, I was like, it is what it is.
And also, I mean, if I went on Traitors, I would be a wreck. There's no way I would get through that in one piece. It's so tense and stressful, the pressure you're put under.
Yeah.
I defy anyone to go on that into that setting and not feel massive emotions. You'd have to be a robot.
Yeah, but it's also, I guess, you're also competing with the fact that people point at the TV and go, it's so obvious, right? You're doing a PhD, like, why don't you get it? And I'm like, well, I'm not doing a PhD in catching traitors.
No, and also that's so easily said from home. It's much like when I watched The Masked Singer and think I could do that. No, I couldn't. Like we all have great ideas about how we'd be on a TV show. It's all bollocks. Megan, I'm very keen to talk to you about your experience post Love Island, because it felt like a lot of the critique was particularly cruel and particularly personal. How did you deal with the fallout? That people were calling you all sorts of names and putting tags on you. How did you deal with that?
It was so bad, like, but the only good saving grace is I came out with a partner, and in that moment I was 24, I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. And because I had him, I was like, oh, as long as I'm in love and he doesn't believe all these headlines. I did get briefed by someone from ITV and they was like, look, this headline is run, this has happened. There was a headline that my dad was so ashamed of me that he fled the country. And I was like, oh my goodness, even though he had come on, you know, they have the family day where your parents come on, he had come on to Love Island. So I was like, oh dear. And like on the front of the Sun, it was like muggy Megan this, like Megan seedy past as a stripper. I was like, oh, this is bad. But because I was in that bubble at the time with Wes, I was like, oh, okay, it's fine. And I think really it hit me maybe like a year after when that relationship broke down. The career wasn't so fast paced. I wasn't doing everything like something every day. I had time to process. And I was like, oh God, I was actually like the most hated person, it felt like, in Britain for that. I don't know, however long I was in there for, like 8 weeks. But in a way, in hindsight, I think it has taught me to not want to be that most like likable person that I'd always try to conform when I was younger. If I hung out with more boys, I would be a bit more tomboy. If I hung out with a bit more like indie kids, I would be that person. If I hung out with girly girls, I'd be that person. I think really, Meg, you can't please everyone. You've got one time on this planet, so you're just going to have to do you. And I think, like you say with The Masked Singer, for example, you'll sit there and you'll be like, oh, I could do that. I think people, they really couldn't get their head around that in some situations, I'm such an introvert. I'm such a kind, sensitive little Pisces soul. And then in another breath, I'm like, no, if I fancy that man, I'm going to go for what I want. I'm going to get him. So I think that was hard for people to wrap their head around, that women are multifaceted. We can do more than one thing. We can be shy in one situation, but be like sexual in this situation and go for what they want and be assertive. But I think people really struggled back then to get their head around that. So yeah, it was kind of tricky.
How did it impact your confidence? Because I think that's the one thing, no matter if people are in the public eye or not, when you've got, could be one individual who is giving you grief, or you know somebody out there doesn't like you and they're trying to mess with your happiness. I think the first thing to get attacked is confidence, because you start to lose a sense of self. I certainly did. When I had tough times when either the press were writing horrible things about me, or when I was at Radio 1, you know, you've got these constant stream of messages that you're looking through, and you've got, you know, lovely ones, and then there's like one awful one or a death threat, you know, really serious things that I'm sure some of us here have dealt with, that awful side of it. You start to lose a sense of who you are, because there's the diluting of your personality. I became as sort of beige as I could, like just be as middle of the road as possible, so I don't say anything that anyone can latch onto, which is not who I am as a person at all. But also just confidence to walk into a room with other humans in it and be like, hey, how you doing? You know, I feel very confident in walking into a room now and excited to interact with other people. But at that point, I was a hermit. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to see anybody. It's the confidence that goes, and it can take a long time to get it back. How did it impact your confidence?
Yeah, so like I say, at first it didn't really affect me because I was in that bubble with the new partner. My schedule was so busy. I didn't really have time to stop and process. But then when I did, it's like it does chip away, because you're like almost walking on eggshells. You're like, I don't want to put a foot wrong because I'm getting come at from this angle. You just want to like not hear anymore. Because how I say it to like a lot of my close friends or family, the average person who's not in the public eye, and yeah, obviously I signed up to do that show, but I didn't think the scrutiny would be as intense as it was. But the average person, they'll have their work colleagues, family and friends, their partners, and that's all that they really get judged by, or random trolls if they have their profile set to public.
Yes.
Whereas with me, it's like I've got journalists, grown men, and like you said earlier, like a lot of the media, the headlines, they're so negative, and then that fuels more trolls. And it's like the next thing, they'll be like, be kind. It's like, you're running the nasty narrative to like incite all these trolls.
Yeah.
So it definitely did chip away at my confidence. But I think with age, taking a step back, I'm not, at first when I came out, it's very competitive to be like, oh my God, I don't want to be forgotten about. I need to post every day. I need to do this. And that wasn't me. Like, I'm not that girl. I love to just like walk my dog, be a bit of a geek, like do my own thing. So I think once I stepped away from that, I'm actually living life for me, not because I'm trying to be performative or keep up with what I should be doing because like certain managements have told me to do this. I'm just living my life.
Yeah,
so
good
I think
for
that's
you.
like rebuilt the confidence, not like conforming to what's expected of me, or an like ex-Love Islander, for example.
Yeah, it's so easy to walk down that path, I think, of looking for that validation in that way. But like you say, you're only going to get it from being you, doing life on your terms, and your confidence then slowly comes back. Because like one thing, I write about this in the book, one thing my friend Claire has said to me repeatedly, and it always sticks with me, and it's quite a harsh way of saying it, but I think I needed a wake-up call when she first said it, was it doesn't matter who's saying what about you, you'll be okay as long as you don't turn the gun on yourself. Because that's what I would do. I would have however many people saying, oh, you're this or you're that or whatever. And then I'd go, yeah, I am. I am awful. I'm an awful person. And then all of a sudden I've nicked their narrative and put it on myself. As long as you don't do that, you're all right. You can feel upset, angry, like there's injustice, and then you can get on with it and move on with your day. So I think you're doing it in the best possible way. Jade, how did it impact your confidence? You go back and integrate into your life, doing your PhD. How did your confidence levels feel?
I think by the time it was all being released, I kind of made my peace with everything that happened. And I was like, what's happened has happened. But interestingly enough, like I used to go to conferences where I'd have to like present and also defend my work on some occasions. I used to find that terrifying, because you know some occasions you get some men that will come up to you and say, "Did you really do this yourself?"
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, yeah. And then, but now, like you know, I go to a conference and I'm just so much more relaxed. And I can, you know, and it was really like the round table were hard,
terrifying.
But if I can sit through that, 12 times?
Yes,
I can go into a conference fine. So I've actually found it really empowering.
I love that.
Yeah.
How brilliant.
Yeah.
This is the plus side of all of this shit that we've been through, is the resilience you build. It's a given. You are going to get more resilient. Do you feel like that, Keisha, over the years?
Yeah, for sure. I was thinking about it the other day because I was like, with everything that I've been through, would I be the person I am like today? Would I have learnt the lessons? Would I, you know, I was always quite like an, you know, empathetic person, but like I'm way more now. The things that it's given me is like a gift, and I could have only have learned it through that, through those experiences. So, yeah, but also I feel like now the big thing that I remind myself of is that like what people think is like of me is like actually none of my business. And I can't like go into people's brains and control the way they think. Like they have a right to think what they think, have their thoughts, and like that's okay. And that's been the biggest thing. I think I was reading in the book that there's like so many, like I think it's like millions of thoughts, thousands of thoughts that go through like the human brain. And imagine trying to control that on another human being. Like you just can't. So I think once I'm still, I haven't got it fully.
None of us have. We're working this out together.
I'm working it out, working on it. But, you know, once that sort of, you know, once that started to click, I think I apply that to like most things. And I think, yeah, I just try to see like the most positive side out of it. Like, what did I get from it? What was the lesson? And yeah, I just like, you know, I celebrate that side of it. So
yeah, that is the best way to do it. The best way. Because I think, if we can look at the positives that come from it and how you grow through really shitty times, or it doesn't even have to be that heavier of an instance, but just people getting the wrong idea about you, or, meeting you with assumptions. Like, all of us will have to deal with that you turn up and people think they've got you nailed straight away. And actually
100%.
It's quite fun proving people entirely wrong.
And you know what as well? I will say that like your character will outlive any narrative, any false narrative. Like your character. Like I always knew who I was, like my friends and my family. And that will always, and you've got to take age into perspective, experiences and stuff like that. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to do it right perfectly all the time. But as you mature and as you get older, like your real character is like constantly developing, and it will outlive any negative narrative. I was thinking from my own journey,
It's so important. The key for me in all of this, and it's something that I think I've probably only properly landed on in the last 2 years, is that for me to navigate any either just sort of random dislike on social media or people that I know, because, we all have, butt heads with people or have fallouts or situations happening. The only way for me to navigate that without it completely ruining my confidence and my outlook and my general levels of happiness is to like myself. That is the only way. There are no shortcuts to it. There's no like 5-step trick that we want to see on TikTok that means you can get through it. You got to like yourself. And that is fucking hard.
Yeah.
You got to forgive yourself from things in the past.
That's hard.
Yeah. Because, sorry, there's not a single person out there listening to this that hasn't fucked up at some point in their lives. We all have. We all like to pretend we haven't. We all have. Forgive yourself in the past. You've got to be happy with how you are on any given day. A good day, a very average day, a really fucking shit day. You're on your period like I am today. You feel a bit fucking angry about everything. Like on those days, you've still got to like yourself then. It's all of that stuff that I think really saves your bacon in those moments where you feel like the world's against you or one person's against you. It's something that I think is probably an everyday discipline. I don't suppose any of us can just go, yeah, I like myself and that's just there forever. It's an every get up, you do it every day. But I'm interested to know where you're at the moment. Megan, do you like yourself?
Yeah, I feel like I'm about to be 32 in like a few days. I feel like with age, it is getting so much better. I'm not being as performative for certain, like I said, friend groups that I used to be. And I'm just doing what makes me feel happy. Like I'm not here and put on this planet to perform for others or do what they want me to do. But I think it's kind of puts pressure on you as society to be like, you should be happy every day. You should love yourself every day. Like you say, like if you're on your period, like you might feel a bit like insecure because you've got a bit of bloating, or other days you'll be look in the mirror and be like, oh my God, I am the shit. Like,
yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's up and down. But yeah, I think definitely with age, it does get much, much better.
Good. How about you, Keisha?
Yeah, I really do. I'm so proud of myself. I think over the last 2 years, especially, I took a stance against, injustices and really stood up for myself in my personal life. And that's actually been the most proud I've been of myself than any of my accolades or anything like that. Yeah, I definitely, I love the fact that I'm accountable. I love the fact that I'm self-reflective and that I see where I still need work. And yeah, those are all the things that, that are important to me, and that the people around me, have a lot of compliments that are outside of my achievements, because obviously that's something you can get wrapped up in, but it's mostly about the person that I've become and who I'm becoming. So yeah.
I love that. How about you, Jade?
I'd say that I'm still I've been an adult for 8 years now. So to sit here and say I'm really happy with myself, I'm not going to say that. I'd say compared to where I was this time last year, so much better in terms of evolution. But I think that's the thing, a lot of it is giving yourself grace, making the mistakes, being accountable for yourself, and then learning from that so you don't have to do it again. And yeah.
But that's exactly it. We're all going to fuck up again before we die.
Yeah.
There's going to be more of it. And
yeah.
And like you say, it's not about never making a mistake again. It's going, oh, I did that, and I probably won't do that again.
Yeah.
And even if I do, I'll think about it, and I probably won't do it after that. It's giving ourselves that grace is so, so important. Yeah. And also the world supposedly doesn't like women that like themselves, because the world needs us, I'm talking about the Western world, needs us to buy shit. So if we don't like ourselves and we think, oh, I could improve, I could be a better version of me, we're malleable and perfect to control and to get to look at certain things or do certain things that the world wants us to do. And if we just go, yeah, I'm kind of good, I don't need to improve at all. You know, I like the idea of self-development because it allows us the grace to mess up and do things differently. But improvement, I feel uncomfortable with. I don't think we need to improve.
No.
Okay.
I don't. I think we're good as we are.
Okay.
I'm as good as I can be today. And then maybe tomorrow I'll learn a big lesson and I'll grow a bit. But I think that whole self-improvement thing thrown at women, it makes us hate ourselves. We constantly look around and go, oh, but blah, blah looks like this, or blah, blah's doing that,
okay.
or blah, blah's able to cope with this and I'm not. And it's like, what's that about? Why we're forced to compare ourselves to each other constantly, which I think makes it feel maybe unsafe to like ourselves. Like it feels weird to sit here and go, yeah, I like myself. I feel good about myself.
Yeah. I feel like, do you think that it's like a British thing as well?
Yeah. I think Americans are much better at going, you're great, I'm great,
Yeah,
we're great,
like,
let's go.
Yeah.
And we're all going, oh, I'm not that great. I'm so sorry. You know, I apologise for everything I've ever done and said. You know,
Yeah,
that's our
exactly. Yeah.
mental attitude. It's
But don't you think it's a misogyny thing as well? Because
Yes.
it's women that compete against each other,
Yes.
like not necessarily us. And I think as we get like more progressive, it's less. But from years and years ago, you would never get men sitting in a pub being like, oh, look at your beer belly and look at my beer belly. Who's got the bigger one? And like put each other down. Whereas women, even if they're friends, there'll be like sly digs. Like, oh, have you put on a bit of weight? Or, oh, this. Like, it's... Men have wanted us to have like some sort of competition, whereas now there's like dance classes I go to with Kaz, who's on my season of Love Island. We've done like a Muay Thai retreat, and you see the beauty in women, even if they put themselves down and like, oh, I'm not feeling great today, or my hair's greasy. I look at that woman and think, oh my God, you're absolutely beautiful. And it's deeper than just her physical appearance. It's her aura, her energy, and how she's like being kind. And I think that's the thing that's gone wrong in the, like, for years we've been like pit against each other as women.
Yeah.
And I think the more we like stick together, it's so cliche, but the more we stick together and like boost each other up, the happier we'll be ourselves as well.
I agree. The judgment on women from other women is immense. And it's something that I've thought about so much because on one hand, if we want to rebel against that, the obvious thing might be to go, well, I don't give a shit what I look like and I'm just going to turn up whatever. And it's like, no, actually, I probably have been conditioned to some extent that I want to look nice and a certain way. And maybe that has come from the patriarchy, but I don't want to change it anytime soon. I'm still going to shave my armpits. Even if it's like hairy armpits are, you know, the most feminist stance, I don't want them. And I think that is also okay, rather than to judge every woman for, oh my God, look at, you know, Madonna, why has she done so much work to her face, age gracefully? Yeah. Let her age how the hell she wants.
I know. I actually, one time, I had one of my friends, I'm just going to say Leanne from Little Mix, she had twins. And I saw her maybe like when the twins are like maybe a few weeks, maybe months old. And she just looked incredible. She was glowing. You know, she just looked like, but from the inside out, just in like a really happy place. And it was her birthday. I remember I put a picture out and I was like, you know, you look, you know, wow, you know, just basically bigging her up as like, and that wasn't to put anyone down. It was just to say like, you look amazing. And then someone had done this like article where basically, you know, they felt like by me bigging her up, I was shaming all the other mums who couldn't bounce back or didn't bounce back. And I was like, even that within itself is so, and I didn't respond to it at all. I'm glad that I'm doing it now, these years later. But I feel like even that was so negative because to big anyone up doesn't mean you're putting down anyone else. And actually, it is I think most mothers, if they were in a room and they saw someone snap back quickly, they would be like, how'd you do that? Or they would like, go up, they would big her up as well, because we all know that it's really difficult to keep in shape, to, you know, we're like that with skin and hair, like, oh babe, how'd you get your hair to grow back, all of that heat after the heat damage, whatever. And so it was just really interesting, you know, how that story was sort of like twisted in a quite a menacing way. And I think that women also need to stop doing that. Like, a compliment is a compliment is a compliment.
Yeah.
And if you don't aspire to that and you're like, actually, I'm going to keep my mummy tummy. Like for me personally, I had lost like maybe, I think 30 pounds, I would say, over the last 2 years. And the one thing that I actually don't want is I don't want like a six pack, but I love looking at Tiana Taylor's body. Like, I love that rock hard. But for me personally, that's not something that like I aspire to. I'm fine with like the tummy that I have. Like, it's flat, it's all right. It's definitely not hers, but I wouldn't necessarily, like, I big hers up, if that makes sense. So that's another thing that we have to stop doing. Like, you know, just basically supporting each other and whatever that looks like. You know, one isn't better than the other.
Yeah.
Whether someone wants to be more, and even me losing the 30 pounds, it's like, I just wasn't happy. I like a particular type of clothing. I wanted to fit in it. I didn't feel comfortable when I would put it on in my body.
You.
That is
it's
completely
no one's
up to
business.
me.
It's no one's business.
But in this world, you know, you kind of get told almost in a way that if you were to say that or to celebrate that, you know, then you're maybe not embracing like who you are. And I'm like, it's exhausting.
It's exhausting. And also it's because there's so much focus on what women look like over anything else. So we look at, we go back to the example of Madonna, who I think is just a good example in many ways.
Yeah.
When everybody's commenting on what she should or shouldn't be doing, who she should or shouldn't be dating, we're forgetting about her insanely amazing back catalogue and how she changed the face of music. And with a male equivalent, we could give a fuck about what he's wearing or what he looks like. We're just going, oh my God, look how many stadiums he's sold out, or look at, you know, the achievements and how many awards he's won. We're not scrutinising that person's face, hair or clothing anywhere near as much.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing is this is the byproduct of, I think, liking yourself, is that you don't feel the need to bring other people down or even comment on it. You don't need to. You're just like, you do you, I'll do me over here. And that seems easy and peaceful and less stressful. I think that's the way to go about it. Would you say that throughout your journey of receiving any negative feedback, and it doesn't have to be due to being in the public eye, could be in your actual lives, that you've tried to change yourself in any way, Jade?
I, like, the friends that I have, like, I always say to them, like, I need you to be honest with me. And it's really important that I have friends who are actually honest and don't just say things because they want to put me down out of their own self-interest, right? Because unfortunately there are people out there like that because they're jealous or whatever. I think I'm not the kind of person to kind of be like, I can't believe you said that. Like, I will always take what you said because it lets me reflect from a different angle. And I find that really helpful because you only have your perspective. So when I have my friends and I value their opinions, I'll be like, basically, have I been an arsehole?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's not
I
that
want to be told that.
Yeah, I want to be
100%.
told if I've been an arsehole. Like, it's not a bad thing to ask. And it kind of just helps reaffirm, not that you need the affirmation, but it's kind of like, if you want to have room to know if you've done something wrong, then you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's, especially at your age, I'm not saying that in a patronising tone,
No.
but I don't think I would have at your age had that idea about my friendship circle or life. But I am very much on the same page that now, you know, especially I keep referencing my friend Claire, but she will say the thing that I need rather than the thing I want to hear.
Yeah, and I think that's really
and I
important.
love that.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And like when you're with social media and like, you know, AI generated crap going on out there, like you just need people who will be around you to ground you. And I think that's really important because the people that you surround yourself with are the energy that you're going to get.
Yeah.
And if it's all just shit, then what's the point otherwise?
I absolutely agree. When I'm trying to think of what age, probably the whole of my 20s, I could probably say, when I was on TV and I didn't quite know who the hell I was, because who does in their 20s? I don't even know in my 40s, but I certainly didn't know then. And I had a lot of feedback, whether it was from, you know, things I'd read in the papers or people would say things to me, or even TV execs would be like, could you be a bit more this or a bit less that? I would go, okay, today I'm going to be a bit more like Zoe Ball. Or tomorrow I'm going to be a bit more like Kat Deely because they seem to be doing well. So I'm just going to emulate them and hope for the best until I work out who the fuck I am. That felt safer than just being myself. Do either of you, let's start with you, Megan. Have you ever had moments where you thought, if I'm just a bit more like that, then I'm safe and everyone will leave me alone?
Yeah, and it's been so hard because I am such an introvert in certain situations, but then obviously with my job and like working as a sex worker, whether that's like webcam, stripping, all of that, there's a side that people wouldn't dare want to do that. That would be the worst fear. But it's so it's hard, and then people don't understand like what is your actual personality. It's like you can be both.
Yes.
So I think when I first started stripping, I was petrified. Never stepped foot in a strip club ever. Walked in there and I was just hungry for money. I was like, can I get a job? They was like, yep, you can start tonight. I just picked the hottest dancer I thought whatever she does, I'm just going to copy. And you like emulate that person.
Yes.
I wanted that aura. I wanted that confidence and to believe that. And it is so cringe about fake it till you make it. But even in my darkest days when I've been unhappy, my mum would be like, look, just go out, go for a walk and just smile. Even if you don't feel happy, if you see an old lady, if you see someone, just smile. And by the end of you've got to the walk, you feel like I've smiled at so many people. It ain't that bad. The sun's shining. I had a nice walk. I got fresh air. And that's the same as what I'd done with the stripper. I was like literally shaking for my first dance. This guy probably wanted a refund. I was like, what on earth is this? But anyway, I like pretended to be like her. And by the end of like a couple of dances, I was like, yeah, I've got this.
Yeah.
So I think that you can do that in a healthy way to like take parts of people's character and like aura that you want and then put it in your own way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, until you work out who you are. There's nothing wrong with it. Have there been any comments from people online, people in journalists in the press, people in your life that have stuck? Because I see these things like, when you walk through a meadow and you get those little balls of like from bracken and they just stick to your clothes and you can't bloody get them off. I have had comments that have stuck with me for years, and it's taken a lot of work to either not take them seriously or completely like pull them out and remove them. If I give you an example, for instance, I remember I was about to do a Radio 1 show live and I was reading the paper and there was a TV reviewer who had written a review about a TV show I'd done. This is probably 20 years ago. And he said, and this is, you remember this shit verbatim, it sticks with you. I had to do a bungee jump for this TV show. And he said, the biggest shame of the show is that the bungee rope didn't snap. And I thought, oh God, I'm that unlikable that he had hoped that I would die at the end of that TV show. And yes, it's all said in jest, but I was about to fade up a mic and talk to 5 million people. And all of a sudden I was like, I don't want to be here. I feel mortified. I feel like there's something inherently wrong with me. This shit sticks to you. And now I can sit here and go, what grown man would write that about a young woman? Shame on him. I'm not carrying that with any weight anymore. It just lives in my brain. Have any of you got that, Keisha?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I will always just go back to, I won't be like completely specific because I think that there's so many different things that like I'm still like quite like traumatized by. But I think a lot of it was just to do like with my character, assumptions being made just about me and my relationship with the girls in the group, never being asked like, Keisha, what happened? Or how did you feel about that? Just like it being decided that no matter what, like I was never going to be like believed. And so I would just sit in that. So I think that generally that was what I kind of accepted. Like there's no point speaking up because who would believe me? Who would believe me? And, that has been, really, really hard, like a hard journey to kind of get over. But I'm also a very faith-based person. My background is like Christianity. So I think the one thing that I learned through my faith is that, not to come into agreement with, I think it's such a powerful thing. Like if someone says something about you and internally like that's not what God says about you, I'm like, okay, you can have that, you can sit with that. I refuse that. So you know how people say like calling back your energy or calling back or whatever. Yeah. I had to literally be like, I rebuke that. Yeah. I'm not accepting that. That's not who I am. That's what you say, but that's not who I am. Like, for example, you mentioned the Masked Singer before, and I was on it this year and I won and I was super excited about it. But to actually get up there, I got quite emotional when I was singing Colours of the Wind, because, you know, I started remembering, you know, words that were said to me, you know, no one will ever want to see you sing on stage. This was like people in circle who I was working with at the time. No one wants to see, quote, you know, a black pop star singing. No one's going to want to hear you. You're better as a songwriter behind the scenes and stuff. And it really broke me down. But even in that, I remember in the moment turning around and saying to that person, well, it's not what you say about me, it's what God says about me. And I think I did that in defiance, but I think there was a small part of me that believed that, which is why you could probably only find maybe like 5 things outside of the Sugababes that I've ever done in 25 years or something crazy like that. So to actually get up there, to actually win, to actually be the first Black person to win in the UK, I was like, wasn't expecting that in a million years, but I was thinking to myself, actually they do want to hear me sing, you know. Fair enough, I was under the mothy mask. But the point is, you know, Maya Jama caught it on the second one, but for me it was more so every achievement that I have, you know, whether it's even just like sitting here today, it just actually shows that like my voice is important, and that rejecting those narratives, rejecting you know, those things that are, I feel like, targeted at confident people, because obviously there was a bit of jealousy there from, you know, those people that maybe have said those things to me. And so now that I've rejected them, I'm literally just embracing the truth, or what I believe is to be the truth.
I love it. Reject. It's just an instant. I reject that. I really like that. I like that as a notion. I reject it. It's not coming near me. Sorry. I'm taking that one. I'm running with it. How about you, Jade? Anything that has stuck with you? You don't have to be specific, because like Keisha says, some of this shit, you know, it is fucking traumatic and it is awful. And I nearly quit TV about 1 million times before I started Happy Place, because I was like, can't do it anymore. Too painful. Don't like it. It's shit.
Yeah, I think it's more like feelings, or like it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So like, you know, there was a lot of conversation around unconscious bias on the Traitors, and I was doing a Sky interview with Fraz, and right at the end, one of the presenters directly asked Fraz, leaving me out of the question, what do you think there's an influence of unconscious bias on the Traitors? And I was just kind of sat there like, one, okay, fair enough, you've directed it to him, but also like I have a say in this as well. And it was really hard because, you know, like you grew up in a British country, I like identified as mixed, and then like sometimes I feel like I have a voice, sometimes I feel like I don't have a voice, because, you know, at the end of the day I am half white, but I'm also half Asian. So like I do have an opinion. And it was just kind of like, okay. And Fraz, lovely, like, was just like, well, Jade's here too, which was really good. But it was just the fact that, like, not that I wanted to comment, it was just, do I not come across like I can speak on this as well? Because I am also half white. So it's just obviously complex. But yeah, that, and, you know, being asked to comment, you know, there are a lot of reserved and quiet women out there. Like, what would your advice then be? And I'm like, why have I now become the spokesperson for reserved and quiet women? Let them do what they want. Stop judging them for being reserved and quiet.
Yeah, why
leave
do we
them
have
alone.
to change
Leave them alone. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. If I want to sit there and just not say anything, leave me alone.
Well, this is the other thing for women, is that we're constantly told we're too something. We're too much, we're too little, we're too quiet, we're too loud, we're too quirky, we're too basic, we're too everything. In someone's eyes, we're always too a thing. And that is a hurdle that we all need to get over, to care less, but also like ourselves more. Is that something you felt, Megan, that you've had that kind of commentary that you're too something?
Yeah, especially given like how I came across on Love Island, because I went for what I wanted. I was like called a man-eater and this and and then when I came out and like that relationship broke down, I was partying, I was papped partying, and like I did look a bit messy, I won't lie.
But also, who gives a shit? Like,
I was 24. I was 24. Like, let me live.
Yes.
So yeah, it's always too something, too like, yeah, too opinionated, or then too sexual, too this. But going back to what you said about like what's the worst thing, I think for me, it was like, because I had that past in sex work, because I had been that party girl, it's like, oh my God, imagine if that was your wife. No one's ever going to want to marry you. No one's ever going to be such a terrible mum. And for ages, I would go to interviews and they're like, do you want kids one day? Do you want to get married? And I'd be like, no. Do that whole defensive thing. And it's only since I got my little puppy, like this year, I'm like, no, actually, one day I would be a sick mum. Like, I do want to settle down and like have a husband one day.
And you will.
Yeah, but for ages, I just felt like, oh, okay, if you think that I'm not worthy of being a mom because of my past, I'm just going to go that narrative. Don't want it anyway. I'm just going to party and hang out with all my gay boys till I'm 60. Fuck you all. But that's not actually how I feel in my heart. So I think, just like, again, age has made me think, no, actually, your opinions aren't going to change what my life narrative is going to be because you think that and you're trying to put me in one-dimensional box.
Yeah, I think that is, again, a key thing that we need to remember is to not become the thing that you're being told you are. Because I certainly did that. I would constantly go, well, I just am that. I'm annoying. I'm just going to go with that. I'm a bit. And you hear yourself parroting it and you're like, why am I confirming something that I actually truly don't believe? I don't believe I am whatever anyone is saying. But you have to have nerves of steel to rally against that stuff. And I'm so glad to hear you're at that point where you're like, yeah, I'm not going with that narrative. I'm deciding. My lovely mate Gok, who's one of my best mates, speak to him every damn day. He texts me at 7 a.m. every morning. And he said something so game-changing 4 days ago to me. And it has stuck with me in the best possible way. And it's so simple. And it's the most obvious thing ever, but I love it. He said, Fearne, you're the CEO of your happiness. I thought, yeah, too fucking right I am. I'm the one that gets to decide that, not anybody else. Doesn't matter if, I've got people telling me I'm this or that or having a go at me or trying to mess with my happiness. I'm going to decide how happy I am on any given day. And it might not be every day that I feel happy. But if I used to have this weird superstition, and I'm not religious, but I believe in something, but I used to have this superstition that if I allowed myself to be too happy, something bad would happen to trip me up and go, you thought it was safe to be happy. Look, a bad comment would literally evaporate all my happiness. And I thought that's how the world worked. And now I don't. It's like, no, you can give it a good go and you can try, but that's not up for debate. I will decipher that. And I think that, again, is a key thing to remember, that we don't take on other people's narratives and that we choose how we feel about our lives and ourselves. And actually, fundamentally, we decide how likeable we are and how much it matters to us at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
good,
powerful.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It's
It's fucking great. I'm excited. I'm excited to have this chat. I am by no means at a point of completion with this. Like, yes, and I don't care if I'm likeable or not, and I will never lose sleep over it again. I'm just so curious about how we start openly talking about it and can live more peacefully with people not liking us and still like ourselves a hell of a lot. I think it's so important. And I'm so grateful to each of you today for being open and vulnerable and honest about this subject. I think it's going to be so helpful to people. Before we wrap up, I would love to ask each of you, where is your happy place? Jade, let's start with you.
Ooh. Honestly, it's going to be so nerdy. Honestly, at my desk, my boyfriend sat next to me. We're playing games. And then I'm just like smiling, laughing, crying at something stupid going on. Like,
what games are we talking? And what kind of gaming?
Just like video games. Like, we were aliens trying to run like a gas station in America, and like we're probing people coming into the gas station. Like, it's rogue.
I love it.
But I'm sat there crying. I don't think I've cried so much from laughter in such a long time. So I'd say that's my happy place.
I like niche, and we've not had that answer before. I'm really here for
you're
that. Welcome. We probably won't again. Keisha, what about you?
I would say my happy place is like a shared space. So I can't be happy unless like everyone around me is like okay. So I feel like starting with that, I can be anywhere just as long as like I know that like mum's good. My nieces and nephews are good. My best friends are good, you know. And then you could plop me on any island with sun and
Yes.
I'm good with some food, you know, like a quick takeout. Like I'm a very simple girl. Everyone around me needs to be happy, and then I'll just get in where I fit in. Yeah.
I love that. How about you, Megan?
Definitely sunshine. I'm copying that one.
Mhm.
It's such a mood booster, don't you think? The
Oh my
sun.
God,
I
it's
love
the
it.
best.
Yes.
Living for the sun.
Yeah.
Sun, good food, my gaze, good music. We're happy.
Yeah.
Maybe a spicy marg. Spicy marg too.
Now we're talking. That's very much my drink of happiness. I love it.
So
But you're
nice.
so right. Even just having the blossom on the trees at the moment is making me feel so
Yeah.
good. Ladies, I think you are all utterly wonderful, brilliantly likeable, whether that matters or not. And I'm just very grateful to sit here with you today. So thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks for having me.